Welcome to Mandela, Struggle for Freedom. In this 4-part series, we will be exploring that struggle for freedom.
Mandela, along with many others, fought for equality in South Africa and an end to the apartheid system, a system of racial laws which benefited whites and controlled people who were not white. Apartheid laws dictated educational opportunities and job opportunities. They mandated segregated living and restricted the movement of black and colored people.
After a series of peaceful protests known as the Defiance campaign, Mandela and other leaders saw no change in government restrictions. In fact, government responded with legal action. Many wondered if legal action would bring about the equality that black and colored South Africans sought in a peaceful way.
The first legal case occurred just as the Defiance campaign was gaining momentum. As the number of people opposing apartheid laws grew, the government sought to capture and silence protest leaders. In late 1952, 20 leaders, including Mandela, were arrested and charged with suspicion of communism. The men were found guilty and sentenced to 9 months hard labor. This quick trial was a victory for the apartheid government, but it did not quell the resistance as the government had hoped.
Instead, they found themselves in a second legal battle with protesters in 1956. In an attempt to end the resistance once and for all, the government passed special legislation to ensure a favorable verdict. They also implemented laws which made it illegal for black Africans to take legal action against any of the apartheid laws. Anti-apartheid leaders were then rounded up for what became known as the Treason Trial. The 155 anti-apartheid leaders were arrested due to their creation of their own Freedom of Rights Charter, which countered the racist policies of the apartheid government. The Freedom of Rights Charter advocated equality, and the apartheid government insisted that the only way it could exist was to overthrow the government with violence. They claimed this plan for equality was an act of communism and threatened to spend millions to ensure it ended up in jail time, hoping to bankrupt the defendants and demoralize them. However, 5 years later, the final 30 protesters were acquitted of all charges.
The final legal battle with the resistance started in 1963. The Rivonia Trial saw 10 leaders, including Mandela, apprehended and put on trial for sabotage. This time, the stakes were high because the men were on trial for their lives. During this trial, Mandela famously pointed out that he feared he would not be given a fair and proper trial because the court was controlled by the oppressive white minority government, which in the face of peaceful protest continued to uphold their segregated beliefs. In the end, 8 of the 10 apartheid leaders were sent to prison on Robben Island, including Mandela. The 9th leader was also found guilty, but was sent to Pretoria, which had the only prison for white political prisoners. The final defendant was originally freed, but later put on house arrest. Following the trial, the white lawyer who defended Mandela and the others was put on trial for his participation and sentenced to life in prison.
The Rivonia Trial proved that the legal system was there to protect the apartheid government rather than the people of South Africa. The clear bias in the legal systems resulted in uniting the resistance. However, as resistance increased, the government responded with more oppressive legislation in an attempt to maintain control.
In 1965, the government made it legal to detain people for up to 180 days without trial if they felt that person had information about any criminal activities related to political or common law offenses. That meant the government could hold people for up to 6 months, and the time frame could be extended if needed. There were also no regulations around how prisoners must be treated, and there were many claims of mistreatment. These types of claims can be seen in the poem behind me by Chris Van Wyk.
So did the legal system fail to end apartheid? Mandela was a trained lawyer, but his attempt to fight the apartheid system through legal means resulted in a sentence of life in prison. The power of of the apartheid legal system allowed for violence to be inflicted on black South Africans with no consequences. And legal resistance was not a means of recourse for the black South Africans. In many ways, it seemed like a hopeless struggle. But these trials brought international attention that began rallying others to fight for change. Join us in Mandela, A Struggle for Freedom, for the next installment for more of the story.